Hey guys, Ethereal Light Art here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel and you like light painting, long exposure photography, or creativity, you're in the right place. Please subscribe and like, share with your artist friends, leave me a comment, I do appreciate them. Thanks for joining me on this journey. All right, everyone, welcome to the next episode of Dude, Where's My Flashlight? We have honored guest DEE LIGHT from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, now originally from New York. Dee, it's so awesome to have you on the show. It's good to see you again. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Like you said, I'm quarantining in Cape Cod I've been quarantining for like the last 4 months. So I'm not in New York right now. I really hope going back, and I'm really happy to be on the show.
Thank you, man. It's such an honor to have you here. I remember the first time we actually got to meet live, person to person, was actually in New York in Central Park at the Light Painting World Alliance meetup. And this actually the first time we met, but the second time we actually met was here in the Northwest at another meetup. Dee, why are meetups so important to you in getting to meet these awesome artists?
Most of all, I like meetups because I get to know people. Like, to me, like, making connection with people is super important, especially because I moved from France and I don't know a lot of people in US. So let's meet people. Also, like, discovering the country and get to meet like fantastic artists. Like, really, just sharing my passion for light painting with everybody, collaborating, exchanging ideas, like the overall emulation that you can find on a meetup, you can't find anywhere else, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Something about that live connection, and it's not just about in between when the shutter starts and when it stops. It's about the whole time. It's about off the set when you're just conversing. Like one thing that I really love is the daytime conversation, sitting around, especially if there's nowhere to paint during the night. You really get to know these other artists, and that's like you. That's why I love meetups as well. We've had the yeah.
It's called a meetup for a reason. It's not called a workshop. It's like you get to meet people, interact with people during the day. You like, what I like also is that during the day you talk a lot about light painting, and sometimes you get light painters is like dropping something, an idea or anything, and like everybody just like comes with an idea, and that's how you find a collaboration for the night.
Yeah.
So that exchange is, like, to me, it's priceless.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, it just makes me think about the collaboration that we did for Aaron in the Northwest. I think I have a picture of it here. We were working alone, but then you guys found me in the tunnel.
And I mean, we were actually on the way back to go back to the camp, and we just saw you were like hanging out by yourself, trying to light paint by yourself, and we're like, yeah, let's do a collab. And that was so much fun. Like, I remember, like, before, like, running into you in the tunnel, I was like tired, and then I saw you, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll just get my lamps, and Aaron got his lamps, and we started just like having fun.
It was awesome, man. And to do a collaboration for Aaron, who's a great friend of both of ours, almost a brother, if you will, was amazing. And it's my techniques as far as the light whips is where I started. That's kind of, I use that a lot in my art. The staff also, at that time I was doing a lot of sparkler on the staff, and so we brought that in. And then you brought the claw and the awesome calligraphy in his hand. I mean, this is a perfect collaboration of what at that time I was really working on, what I was good at, obviously what you're known for, and to put those together turned out pretty awesome.
That's where you get the best picture. Like when you collaborate, just having fun, you just like then you look at those pictures like, yeah, that was like a really good time, and you remember the time you spent and the art that you like we produce all together. That's the best moment.
I agree, and then we talked a little bit about actually what it means to us as artists to do a portrait, especially for a friend, for a loved one, for even a stranger, and to give them that memory that they can actually reflect back on and take forever is really something special. And so this was Aaron's at the meetup. I want to segue into the personal one that you did for Aaron in New York. You talk about this image, where you were, who you were with.
So I was at with there are a lot of we are like actually 3 or 4 light painters in New York. There's like Aaron was from Long Island and that occasionally comes and join me in New York. But there's also Shanette Monceau that was like before located in France, and she moved in the US maybe a year after I moved. And so that's at Shanette's studio in Brooklyn. So we're just hanging out, the three of us, kind of having fun in the studio during the winter. And at some point, we're like, okay, like we're gonna make portrait, and so we took turns, and like we were like models or light painters, and we're just having fun, just like we did at the meetup in the Northwest. And at some point, I was like, okay, this is Aaron. I want to give him like a nice, cool picture. And I think I just asked him for like the colors he wanted. He said white and red. Um, and so I said, okay, I'm just gonna do what I do, and that the picture and the thing that I did just came out of like nowhere. I was like standing behind him, didn't exactly know what I was gonna do, and I started doing that, and I felt like the flow coming, and we ended up with this cool picture.
Amazing, amazing. And can you extrapolate or can you explain a little bit how you're feeling and what it means to you to be in the flow state? I often feel the same, but I want to hear your version.
It usually comes after like usually when I go on like outside and I start like painting, like you come on a spot and you want to shoot it from a specific way. Once you get your picture or you got a picture that you're proud of, then it's just fun. And I noticed that sometimes I come on a spot and I start like painting, doing a calligraphy. I got my picture. That's pretty much what I imagine, or not, because I don't come with a predefined idea of what I'm gonna do on the location. And then once I get something that I like, then I experiment, and that's when the flow comes. And you're like, oh, maybe I can do that. I can do that, and you add on the top of like different light paintings, different calligraphies that you're doing, and that's when the flow comes. And at some point, like I think there's always a moment during a session where you're like picture after picture, you're making different stuff, and you're not missing. It's just like the flow comes, and you keep dropping like very cool light paintings, and that's a great feeling. I'm sure every light painter has felt that at some point.
Absolutely. And even beyond light painting, just any artist, musician, dancer, anyone, any athlete, anything that requires a high level of focus, when you're in that zone, if you will, or if you're in that flow state, things just seem to click. The next thing just seems to come. And for me, I often feel it when I'm actually been warmed up a little bit. And so I guess my next question to you, D, is do you have a warm up or some sort of sequence that you normally do when you go out light painting?
Usually I get like I said, I practice a lot. So when I come on in a place, I have the shapes that I practice, at home. Or so to warm up, I usually do the shapes I know, and then I start exploring. Like during like the way I work is that during the winter, like I said, I practice a lot inside because it's very cold in very cold in New York City. So I experiment. I look at new shapes. I look at real calligraphy on paper. And then when I go outside, I try to combine all the stuff that I worked together with like existing shape that I was doing, and I go from there.
Yeah.
I don't have like predefined. I don't sketch before going in a place. I like the unexpected.
Yeah, me too. The spontaneity of creativity, and seeing where it takes you. And sometimes it can get me in trouble, but a lot of times, especially in the beginning of a light painting session, if you will, or an outing or a night out, I let that flow state. I don't really put restrictions on myself. I just let my hand kind of go where it wants to and let my gut, my instinct, sort of take over. And it can get me in trouble, especially if I let it go too much without having some mental constriction or barriers to say, okay, that's too much light in the frame. You've gone too far. You've added too much detail, so much detail that it overlaps each other, and it's actually fighting. It's fighting for attention from the audience or from the visual aspect of who's looking at the piece of art. So I guess my next question, D, is this is the famous one for all calligraphers. How do you know when to stop? What's your gauge?
So usually when I ask myself, should I add something? Like maybe I can add something and I'm not quite sure. Also, the way I work is that I go on a location. I started doing my shapes and I work incrementally. So I start with like big shapes, kind of warm up, and then add like little pin. And at some point you're like, okay, I reached something that is nice. What can I add? And usually when I ask myself, can I use like another color on the top of that, or like adding something, or that's when I say, okay, that's too much. It means that it's too much.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. If I don't have a set like sequence, and sometimes I do, Tom Hill kind of referenced this as thinking in layers and not layers of Photoshop, layers of light. And I think what you just said is you start with your biggest brush, and I do too. I think you showed me this. I learned this from you, as well as the medium brush if I want to do some medium strokes. And then I take my scriptor or my Light Painting Paradise pencil, and I do the very fine detailed work, going from largest brush size, medium to small for the detailed work. And I often find that the detailed work takes me a lot longer, obviously, because there's a lot more involved with that. Again, that's where I can really spiral out of control, because once I'm there, I'm like, oh, I know I can do more, so I'm just gonna do it. And the other half of me is like, don't do it.
So usually you have to listen to the guy that says don't do it.
Yeah.
It means that it's too much.
It is.
The challenge also in New York is that you cannot add too much because it's very dark. It's very bright, and so like the spots of dark are like very you can count like on your hand. So like you cannot have like multiple layer. You take three lamps top, and you have to be quick. You have to know pretty much what you want to do. So it's like 45 seconds, and you have to if you have 3 lamps, it's 15 seconds per lamp. So it's like it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. It's almost like the Amazing Race, and something that I've been working on is just getting faster. And I think that comes from proficiency of the brush strokes. And again, we're talking about calligraphy in general here, but this is light painting. If you can get it done faster and more proficient and efficient, your model appreciates it. There's less ambient light coming in. Obviously, that's a huge concern in the city. I live downtown Portland. I don't shoot in the streets as much as I would like to.
If I could give one advice
for
light painters, I've seen some light painters coming with like a brand new lamp that they don't know. Like I said, it's important to practice not just for the body, the memory of like the things you're doing, but also to know your gear. It's super important. Like know how to work it in the dark. It's important to know your gear to be able to do good stuff.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I've recently got some new lights from Light Excursion, and They are awesome, and they are fully in depth. There's probably at least 4 or 5 different switches, and which means that each switch has a um, momentary or voluntary switch and then a permanent switch. And so each one does a different thing. That's 10 different settings in one flashlight. And so that can be very complicated. So it took me a good couple days to really understand what they do. And once you really understand your lamps, then you can actually start to understand what I can do with them, and then when you're not light painting, you can be like, oh yeah, I did that with this, and that can be applied over here, and I can take that and apply it over here, and that's really the beautiful process of learning. And so
But
yeah.
like we said, like for a painter, you get the brush that is the extension of the end, you know. And I feel like you have to know how to manipulate a brush when you paint. Like otherwise, it's more complicated. I really suck at drawing. Like really, I don't know how to handle a pen. But you give me a lamp, I might be able to do good stuff. Because I know my gear, I know my lamps, and I know how to use it. I use my wrist with it. I know what effect it's gonna give. So it's important just to practice for that also.
Let's stay on New York real quick. And I know you miss home a lot. We got to spend some time in Central Park. We got to spend some time at the Pepsi sign, doing some amazing collabs. In fact, it was the first time I actually saw live calligraphy from you. I was introduced to it by a good friend, DEE Light, a good friend of yours, who trained under Mass, and I think we all are inspired and appreciate and love those guys for doing what they do and sharing this beautiful art form. I want to go back to New York, where what considerations do you have specifically for shooting downtown in the city?
One of the things that I noticed is that, I don't know if you remember, but when we met, I was like, I only always have like a backpack. No more. Like my hands are free. Everything is on my backpack. I get like 3 or 4 lamps, so that if there are like people, or like if it turns like a little weird, you can just like pack in like 20 seconds and leave. I can give like a couple of like spot that I like to go. The High Line is one. It's a little challenging because it's a little narrow, but you're surrounded by buildings. It's very nice if you like rotation and then light painting there. There are a couple of like light graffiti, which are really cool, and it's pretty safe. And then just under the Brooklyn Bridge on the Brooklyn side, it's called Dumbo. If you go there, like there is a park, you have a nice view on the bridge. You got the water, city lights reflecting in the water. That's gorgeous. Bring three or four lamps. That's enough.
You know what? And doing less with more, I think, is the key takeaway here. To be able to pack up and move in case there's a situation that happens, either with a person or with anything. Animals, we have a lot of, I live in the Northwest, there's a lot of animals around here, and I'm in the forest a lot, so you will hear scratching and some interesting sounds. Maybe Chris Bauer with the Sasquatch is coming. I don't know, but yeah, to pack less, to do more. And then again, that goes back to what we said about learning your lamps inside and out, because you can do more with them. You can make fire, if you just will, with anything. You just need to just know what you're working with, and then what kind of effect or texture it's going to bring into your image. So to pack light, to get in, to get out, to be inconspicuous. You don't have a big DSLR that's out and about, that's attracting somebody that might want to unfortunately take it and run away. I worry about that, as I'm often out by myself. Do you have any advice? I know you go out on your own a lot, packing less gear, but do you have any safety precautions? Do you always face the camera? What kind of safety precautions do you employ?
So usually what I do is that I get in a spot where there's not a lot of people. I would not go like on a road where there's like people walking. I usually go, if it's in a park, I go in the grass, because there's not a lot of people going there. And usually when I open my shutter, I just do a quick like 360 to make sure that there's nobody. And also, like in New York City, it's very bright, so you only have like maybe 45 seconds worth of, and if you see somebody coming too close, you just finish the picture, like close the shutter and just like go close to your gear.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. You know, and I was traveling a little bit around the world, in some of these countries. It was pretty rural and fairly economically poor, and so I was standing out just with the light painting gear. I mean, waving lights around in the dark, especially after midnight. Most of the family type of people have gone home, and so it can be a little dangerous out there. I recommend obviously going with somebody, but if you are out and alone, the less gear, the more mobile you can be, is a huge
But
thing.
like,
And like you said, traveling, even hiking, even doing adventure light painting, you don't have to carry so much. I mean, it's so much
yeah.
easier on the body.
But like I said, the two locations that I gave in New York City, which are the Island and Dumbo under the Brooklyn Bridge, really safe. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be bothered there because those are also touristy places. Yeah, I mean, this one is actually on the Roosevelt Island.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if you
love
know, but
this.
Eric Mellinger lives there.
Oh, cool.
He
Yeah.
lives on this island. He showed us the spots and everything. We went there with Dom, and that's a really cool spot. Not a lot of people being there, so really nice.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And then, do you remember this picture? I have to scoot over because the
Oh
subject.
yeah, that was with Zoe.
Yeah,
Go
that
after
was at our
dark. Yeah.
meetup. We had Aaron and Melissa there, and we did some tubes stuff. We were down in Central Park first, but then we went to the Pepsi sign and did this one. It's interesting. I'm looking back through our memories here, which is obviously why we do it. And I find this image. And this is, I think, where I first saw you do some calligraphy, and the calligraphy is amazing. I think I'm hiding it here, but what I wanted to talk about is actually this, because you didn't like what was on that side of the image. So what a beautiful and intelligent way to make up for that is by just putting lights over
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Just put the light. You get close to your lens, and you just like do like a big movement like this. One in the bottom is like, if there's something you don't like, it's a good way. It's a good way to hide from everybody. Like, if there is another light painter, for instance, if there is another light painter that is like in your frame, you can just do that. It's gonna cover what he does. It's like, so I don't have to crop the image.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And it's a good point to make. When you're doing any sort of light painting image, and it's not just one stroke or just one spin, when it's either it works or it didn't. When you're actually adding a bunch of different strokes of a brush, a light brush, if you will, which means that the torch is going on and off multiple times. If you do something that you don't feel fits the image or what you intended, a lot of other artists on the show have come in and said, I try to either make the same mistake, because sometimes two mistakes equal something that looks interesting, or I'll try to cover it up, where if I did like an accidental mark over here, I'll try to like maybe do like some calligraphy on top of it. A lot of my images are longer, like 3 to 5 minutes. And I know you can't do that in the city, but I have a studio here in my house. And so I can actually take as long as I want, which really, really helps, because sometimes, after 5 minutes, your brain starts to hurt a little bit and you have to like take a deep breath and you're like, oh my God, where am I? Do you ever like find a mistake or find something that you're not quite sure about and then try to maybe cover it up similar to this inside of one of your longer images?
yeah, all the time. A lot of people, maybe you're gonna have somebody coming in front of you while you're shooting with his phone, and it's like it's screwing your pictures. You're trying to cover as much as you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens. Also, New York is an unexpected. Like, you always have unexpected stuff happening. So you have a plane coming, you have everything. So you try to cover it as much as you can. Sometimes you run to your camera and just like cover it just to avoid like getting more light. But yeah, that happens all the time.
I totally agree. In fact, I usually carry a black shirt. I usually wear this big long shamog scarf kind of thing, and that actually unfolds to a bigger, almost 1 meter square of fabric, and that does well for a quick, soft cover of the camera. Sometimes a baseball cap will go nice. You know, to find the lens cap to actually get it on there in the dark and then not bump the camera is honestly kind of difficult. So I would totally recommend a soft black long piece of fabric that just to kind of cover all the angles, make sure you get no
Yeah.
light leaks along the bottom. And you know, I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Well, buddy, I want to take a shift here and focus on what you love, what you're known for. The one word that comes to your mind when light painting is calligraphy. Can we turn back the clock a little bit and talk about when you first were introduced to calligraphy, how you got started, and can we talk about actually giving this gift? I mean, what a better way to share your talents and your art than with people. And this is amazing. Can you talk about the face painting and the body painting and where it all began?
So it was like I started light painting in 2012. I was going through a rough time in my life, and I reconnected with Mass and Dawn, who are two of my very good friends. Um, so they were part of a crew or an association that was like working on festivals and neighborhood part like festivals, that kind of stuff. And so they said, "Hey, why don't you come with us? Like, why don't you start painting on people?" And then they introduced me to light painting. I was first to model, so when I saw the picture, I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I saw the picture, I saw the portrait that Mass did of me, and I was like, okay, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then little by little, I started like taking like the pencils and drawing on people. And now it's like the two combine really well, because during the day you're doing like great art on people, and during the night you're making like painting.
Oh, that sounds like heaven. You know, one of the things that we often talk about on the show is, you know, how do we make light painting professional, or how do we make a commercial? How do we make a living from this? And just art in general, it's always a struggle, in a way. It's always this sort of resistance, or sort of, people call it a barrier. And there's a lot of emotional and spiritual things that are attached to that. But just to find ways to actually turn your art into commerce, and the exchange of energy really is what it is, and money, is a beautiful thing. And I love the fact that you did it with Mass. I know you guys were childhood friends and have known each other for a long time.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Do you have any good stories? Do you have a favorite story from any meetup or any time with Mass that you can share with us?
Oh, I have so many stories, because there was a time where, I was working during the day, and I was at the beginning I was going out until 4 a.m. during the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have many stories with Mass. There was a time it was like a live performance for like a dance festival, I think. And so at the beginning of each crew dancing, there was Mass doing a light painting. He didn't prepare much. The only preparation he had, so I was like activating the shutter for him, like taking care of the camera, and didn't prepare anything. Didn't meet the people too much uh, for like the light painting, and the only thing was like 15 seconds, because before they go on stage, he was asking a couple of questions about the dance they were going to do, and told them, "You go there, you go there, you go there." Like he came in, like everybody was seeing the picture after when I closed the shutter, and everybody was like, "What?"
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
it's the best feeling ever as a light painter to, I mean, we often talk about this on the show. It's that just euphoric surprise of magic. And when somebody, of course, is unfamiliar with what this kind of magic, it's even more special to bring it to somebody who's never experienced it before.
I
Yeah,
have other story. I have other stories with math, but those are PG-13, you know.
yeah. And what year was that? What year was that, D?
It was 2013 or 2014, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Awesome, man.
lot of fun, lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And a few years back, I mean, looking back at your art in the beginning in 2013, 2014, or not just your art, but calligraphy, can you walk us through some of the things that have changed or evolved for you and the process it took from going through those hours and hours of practice? What made you keep pushing yourself when you wanted to just stop? And I'm talking about the practice aspect of calligraphy, because you got to have the practice, you got to put in the repetition, you got to put in the time. What keeps your fuel going? What keeps your fire burning?
Uh, so the process was first, like any light painter, when you start doing stuff, you start writing, you start to write words, and then I got something that connects me with calligraphy. It's my roots. My father is from Morocco, and I remember going back in time when I was a kid. We were going on vacation there, and I was seeing those beautiful letters. And when I started to see like some light painters like doing some Arabic calligraphy, I was like, yeah, I love that. I'm gonna try. So at the beginning, it was like not good at all, I should say. But yeah, like you practice, you keep practicing, and sometimes you see like a calligraphy, a calligraphic writing. It's a challenge, and you practice for it. And then when you're able to practice it indoors and bring that outdoors in a location, that's when magic happens. That's when you're like, okay, I want to keep doing that. I want that again, and I want to try to find new practice again and again to find new shapes, new composition, and that what keeps you rolling.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I couldn't agree more. And Dee, to zoom in a little bit, no pun intended, but to zoom in on the actual movement and the practice, can you give us an exercise, or can you give us one exercise for a beginner calligraphy, maybe something with a wrist roll, or what kind of repetition exercise do you do that would help somebody?
So I think I did maybe a year ago, I did a basic tutorial on calligraphy. If you haven't seen it, just watch it. It's a lot of like basic shapes. Um, so like I said, know your lamps, and practice with it. Like the easiest one is the S, like this, which is very calligraphic,
Mhm.
but it's body memory. You have to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And then you can try to write letters. You know, A,
Oh.
B, C, D. So like in one click, like this, D or O, and then you can start doing E, like this. So yeah, start practicing with like letters. Try to give like the thing that I would give is like take one letter, let's say D, because that's me. Try to do it normally like this, and then start doing different stuff. Like you can start doing that, and then that. Start giving it different shapes, and that's when you're gonna have like different style. Your body is gonna be used to it, and you're gonna be able to reproduce that.
Yeah, I agree. And using your body as a reference point, can you give us, now that we're on this subject, do you always go from your shoulders to waist or shoulders to knees as your X plane, and then maybe use the center of your body as the Y plane? Are you thinking in a grid? How are you thinking as far as spatial orientation?
So I'm usually thinking in a grid. Like I got like one part which is the bottom of my body, from my waist to my feet, and the rest is from my waist to my head.
Mm.
That's two different blocks, and I use my shoulder to like kind of like a friend, like in baseball. I got my frame like this. And then I usually, when I start light painting, I start light painting. I look at a place like a reference on the ground to kind of figure out where I was at the beginning. So if I want to go on the left, on the right, I count my step. And then I just move my grid from one step to another.
Yeah.
And then I know if I go 2 steps on the left, if I do 2 steps on the right, I'm going to be back at my starting point, and I can go back again. And there's no risk for me to like start some light painting on the top of another one.
Okay.
That's how I work. And now I'm even starting to practice going forward and backward, like in a kind of a diagonal, and give like depth in my picture.
I love it. I love it. In fact, actually, I have been doing a lot of calligraphy in the last 24 hours, and you have really inspired me to do that just from this interview. And Dee, can you talk to us about this image?
Oh yeah, that was in a abandoned castle.
And what I love so much about this is the balance of it, but your groundwork here is beautiful. Can you talk about how important it is to do some groundwork and remember all of what's in the frame?
So that picture was inspired by a picture that I saw from Kalam. I'm super impressed about his work, and especially like when he works on the ground, it's gorgeous. Like you feel that it's one piece of art. Yeah, like the thing is like gorgeous. It's not like if you go back on my picture looks nothing like this. Like there's a different level, you know, between the two of us. He's obviously the master. I'm like a beginner compared to him. But yeah, I think it's important to get to do some stuff on the ground. Like we usually work, we don't work on the ground as much as we should.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's gorgeous. Like when you add some light painting on the ground, kind of like let's say you draw a tree in light painting. It's nice to see the roots. If you can make the roots and like kind of in a light form, that's gorgeous. And that just bring even more depth, even more 3D effect on your picture.
Yes, I have been into trees and all kinds of plant life lately. I put out a couple tutorials lately on that, and yeah, sometimes the roots actually coming down the trunk and then actually going towards the camera can really add like a creeping kind of along the floor kind of look. But it's very much like this image, like you said, adding depth, coming closer to the camera, using the full field of view, actually, I think is what it really comes down to as a photographer term. You know, like what is in the borders of your frame? Are you going to add light to the upper corners? Are you going to add light on the floor or towards the camera? Obviously marking your spots with, you know, some sort of glow star or, you know, tape or something, or a rock or a pine cone or a pebble. But yeah, I love this image, Dee. I think this is one of your best. I love that you've got a center line here and you are working around it with detail and it's all connected. It's amazing. Yeah, it's very inspiring. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is so good. And you know, and honestly, Dee, when I first met you, not to go back to the beginning of the conversation, but it was like, you know, it was probably 10 or 15 minutes before we even introduced each other. I mean, I was like, you know, working on set. I was actually, I think, doing tube spins with Zoe, with Katie May, my partner. But then Aaron introduced us and he was like, "This is DEE LIGHT." I'm like, "Oh my God, you're DEE LIGHT." And it's like, you're so humble and like, you're so amazing. And that's what really this community should be about, is just, you know, sharing this beautiful art form.
I'm a little shy, and also like I know that sometimes when I go in a place like a meetup, usually you don't get to go to a spot. When you see a spot, like especially we're in Central Park with like this gorgeous bridge close to a fountain, it's like And I know that when you come in New York, like you want to be like, and you want to get good picture, you need some time to do that. And I thought it was important just to leave you guys do your stuff, and then we're gonna have fun otherwise, like another place. But yeah, I'm very shy, so I don't introduce myself usually.
I think sometimes photographers are the shy ones. I'm a little shy myself. I've been recently doing a huge new series about self-portraits, and it has really, really helped me with that. Another question I might have, well, two questions. Number one, have you ever dabbled in self-portraits? And two, do you ever record yourself doing the calligraphy or doing any kind of light painting, like in a video? Maybe not necessarily to share with the community, but just to actually go back and reference for your educational purposes, like, oh my God, I did the first 35 seconds good, and I see my hand strokes, and then that 38-second, I just did something like I didn't like. Do you ever record yourself?
So I never record myself. I did it once. That was weird.
Yeah.
Because I don't like seeing myself in video. But
I know.
now with practice, I wouldn't say that I developed. I'm kind of mental recording myself. And usually when I look at a picture and I see something that I don't like, I remember when I was doing it, I was like, okay, that's because at the end of this shape, I did something weird with my wrist, and
Yeah.
I should not do that. So the next time when I do it, I make sure that I do the proper movements so that I don't get the same issue.
Yeah. And D, can you talk a little bit about tempo of the lamp? Because I know if you go slow, obviously that's going to add more light in that area. It's going to be a brighter, bolder line. If you go fast, it's going to be maybe even a tail off. How important is tempo in your brushstroke and what it means to you for your calligraphy?
I mean, it's like usually I use the kind of fast and slow when I get different lamps. So
Okay.
that's why I'm saying it's important to know the lamps that you have and how bright they are. For instance, like when I went in Virginia for the meetup, the first meetup that I did in the US, I camped with my lamps of New York City, which are very bright.
Yeah.
And I was using settings that I was using. I changed the settings, but like I had very bright lamps, and I had to adapt myself, like go faster so that there's less light.
Yes.
I had to add a filter on it because I was burning everybody's picture. Because I was making calligraphy with like a very bright lamp, and my settings were okay for me, but other people were like shooting at ISO like 400 and f 3 point something, and I used my bright line. I looked at their picture, I looked at mine, and I was like, nope, like I have to change my lamps to work like this. So usually it's the ambient that tells me what kind of lamp I'm gonna use.
Yeah. Okay, that's great advice. Most of the lamps I have either have a dimmer switch or have a remote that can reduce the brightness to match the environment, which is super, super important. Another really, really awesome, helpful hint from Tom Hill was your eye naturally focuses on the brightest part of the image. And to go back to what we were saying about maybe if you don't like a stroke, and in fact, actually the last 24 hours in my calligraphy, if I did most of it right, but I didn't like one part, I would actually take another lamp that's a little bit brighter, and I would actually just kind of either go over it, like I mentioned, or do something else that I know that is going to look good. And that's going to be the focus of the tome, or that's going to be the focus of the image. And that's a good way for people to keep going and not in the shutter in the image, is grab a brighter lamp or just adjust your lamp just a little bit brighter, and then do something that you feel confident and that you can really do. That might be a good way to salvage the image after making maybe an erroneous or mark that you don't like in the image.
And even though you miss, it's like it's a happy little mistake.
Yeah.
I'm a big Bob Ross fan, so it's So yeah, it's a happy little mistake.
Oh,
And I see a lot of people every time they make a mistake, they just like delete the picture.
yeah.
I never do that because I want to remember. And sometimes you come back 2 weeks after and you're like, wait, that was a mistake. That was actually not too bad. So maybe I can reuse that. And I always go back, even to my first light paintings. I always go back to my history of image and I check what I was doing. And sometimes I find some stuff that I really enjoyed. And so
Yeah.
I'm reusing the shape. Always look at in the back, always look in the future, but always look at what you've done so that you can reuse everything.
Yeah. There's no mistakes, D. There's only happy little accidents.
Exactly.
Spoken from the Bob Ross of yoga.
Yep.
I love it. We talked a lot about exercises, being quick, having limited gear, knowing your lamps. I mean, these are just absolutely fantastic tips. Do you have anything last to add to the calligraphy section of? I know we're going to put the link in your tutorial, which I think is a great one. I have watched it. It's amazing. It's great for all people trying to understand this. Is there anything else to add to the tips and tricks for calligraphy?
I will never say it enough. Practice, really.
Okay.
Try to practice on paper. That could help. But yeah, practice. Know your lamps. And yeah, try. That's the most important. Just try. Don't be afraid.
Mm.
Like I see a lot of people every time they see calligraphy, they're like, that's too complicated. I don't want to try. Even though you give them the lamp, say, can you try?
Yeah.
Just try. Like, don't be afraid by the word calligraphy.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thanks, man. No,
I mean, I've seen progress in like what you're doing, like the fact that you practice and you actually starting getting into it.
yeah.
Like you see the improvement that you're making, like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So keep going, like not just you but everybody. And but yeah, that's one of my goal, being able to have like a couple of words in Arabic, like light, peace, that kind of words, being able to reproduce this and then work on a more artistic level.
Yeah.
And maybe go on a war memorial and write peace in Arabic to me, or yeah, or
Oh,
maybe combine uh, like the word love or light, the word love with a couple.
yeah.
Like having like a real couple doing like a nice portrait and write love in Arabic. That could be a nice thing too.
It sounds amazing, and something I'm definitely working towards. It should happen here. I'm getting close. I was doing a little bit of kanji, a little bit of Japanese, and that was difficult. Any kind of writing. These are some of the hardest languages in our known world. Arabic and Japanese and Chinese, and especially if you're coming from a Western side of the world where I'm not. We often don't even read this or see these lettering. But I have been to Morocco, and it was absolutely breathtaking. The people were amazing. The countryside, the desert, the mountains. They've got everything there, and I absolutely loved my time in Morocco. I highly recommend a visit as soon as this.
That's a gorgeous country.
Yeah.
Gorgeous country.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those meetups for the LPWA. I'm not sure what year it was. It was a few years back, maybe 2017. But Yaz put it on, or she hosted it, and it turned out great. I know Cisco was there. He's a huge inspiration, as well as Kalam. Those are some of my favorite calligraphy artists, as well as obviously Sam and Stabu Light. Yeah, I wish I could have been for that one. That was awesome. Well, buddy, I want to talk about you actually thank you for selecting a couple images of mine. I'm going to put up Dust and Bones, which is this guy. Do you have anything to ask me about this one? Thank you for selecting this. This is an interesting one for me.
Yeah, I really like this one because I like the composition. Like the frame is kind of you get this character going out of the frame, and I like the fact that it's don't get me wrong, it's a single color,
Yeah.
orange. It looks simple, but it's more complicated than you can imagine. Like, I like the details on the character, the way the painting is done. I like the fiber optic behind, and it's very cool. I really love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I was the model. I've got these sugar masks that my good friend bought for me as a gift, and so I wanted to put that on. I wanted to put the top hat on. I wanted to play the guitar. I've been playing the guitar for a bit, and this really was inspired by Guns N' Roses Slash, and I've just always loved him as a guitarist. I've just loved his no care attitude and just going for it. He was pretty raw, and so to have a frame, a picture frame that's actually gutted and emptied, and having the subject come through it into that depth towards the camera really, really did something well here. And it was not my first try. It was very difficult holding still for 3 minutes or more. I think actually, no, this one was probably 6 minutes. I think it was like 480 seconds or something. I think that was 6 to 8 minutes. So it was very difficult, especially when the fiber optic brush is on your fingers or on your face or near you. You kind of want to, like, you know, move away from it. So thank you. It means a lot to me. Yeah, amazing, amazing. And the second picture, which also has depth in it, is La Flor de Vida. Talk to me about this one.
I'm working a lot on depth, and first of all, the structure is like amazing. It looks like a rabbit hole a little bit, and there's like so much detail, so much stuff in this structure that are amazing. And like the way you shoot it is like there's so much depth. Then you added like a model and your own style in it, and just like that's also one cool stuff. Is like when you go on a spot, you see like a nice piece of art. There are a lot in New York City. You see a nice piece of art, you're like, how can I use that and add my art on it without like appropriating it to me, you know, without like changing the message of it. And yes. I really love this one because of the depth, because of the structure, the way you added your stuff in it. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. You know, you said it best, when you just want to collaborate and not change the message from the original artist. And Burning Man is a beautiful community of love and creativity and togetherness and collaboration and participation. And that's really what I try to do as much as I can when I'm there. Unfortunately, it's canceled this year.
That was on my list. That was on my list on stuff to do.
I would love to have you there if you want to come. Obviously, you know, private message me. We'll plan something accordingly. The toughest thing is to get a ticket, and so I might be able to help you with that. I can't get a lot of extra tickets, but there is sometimes I hear of a ticket floating around that is sometimes can be the most challenging part of going to Burning Man. But buddy, there are so many artists there. There are so many willing participants that are just so loving. You can't help but collaborate with them and want to give. It's a gifting society. So to give my art is why I do this, is why I light paint, is to gift it and to inspire people and to open their creativity. And there's nothing better than putting a paintbrush or a tube or a blade in someone's hand, or even a scripter, and just say, hey, this is what we're going for. You add whatever you want. And you know, it usually works out to be something quite special that everyone can have and take with them. So yeah, this is a perfect example of not doing too much, shooting it straight down the pipe. I wanted to get that concentric circles. That's one thing I've been working on lately, is actually doing concentric circles closer to the camera and further away to give this effect. And it was inspired by this art piece and likes of Tom Hill. Again, adding depth to your photos really, really says a lot, really does a lot for your image. So thank you.
Yeah, I watched your previous podcast, and I think Johnny Griffin sums it up is that we're working in a 3D environment, but like the rendering is in like a 2-dimension picture. So like bringing depth, being able to bring depth, I think depth in your picture is like the next step for me.
I
Really.
agree. Yeah, no, thank you. I agree. It's something I'm currently working on like you. I'm excited to see some of your new stuff. If you do post it, I know that you're not a huge social media guy. I'm not really either. I think it can be a little toxic for how you value your art. And I struggle with this. I know other people struggle with this. I don't know if social media is the best place to display your art, but I want everyone out there, including you, if you want to post, post. If you don't want to post, that doesn't mean you're any less of an artist. And it doesn't matter if you get 5 likes or if you get 5,000 likes. Your art is your own. And if you're happy with it, that's really honestly, at the end of the day, all that matters.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I usually don't post because, um, yeah, like I'm very picky about my work, so I don't post everything. When I post something, it's really that I like it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard for me. Like I said, I'm very shy. It's hard for me to be proud of what I'm doing sometimes, and I'm very. I criticize myself a lot. So yeah. Sometimes when I post something, it means that to me it's like perfect in my own judgment.
Cool.
So
Well,
yeah.
we're all our worst critics. And I really, truly believe that. I also believe that we are our best teachers. You know, a lot of people, especially other artists or anyone out there, actually looks somewhere else for validation or a change or education about their stuff. And then really looking at your own art and knowing that your body movement, like you mentioned before, like your hand, why did my wrist do that at that moment? When you look at your own art, you are by far your best teacher because you're the one that did it and you know what you were going for. And no one else can say, hey, that's wrong because they weren't you. You know, they weren't doing it.
But I think that's also important to post on social media, just because like what I like is having some feedback about my work, uh, whether it's by like painters or not, photographers or not, or like random people, people who are not actually into light painting. I like having the feedback of like, I like that or I don't like it.
Yeah.
And why? Why do you like it? Why don't you like it? Like what didn't you like in this picture of what I've done? And that to me is like the best way to learn.
Mm, yeah, no, I agree, brother. I agree. Well, thank you for picking these two photos. They mean a lot to me. People I was with, where I was at. And again, that's why we light paint is to share this art form, like you said, with as many people as possible. And those two are important to me. Thank you. You mentioned Johnny, and I know he's a good friend of yours. You just had him on the show. Can you talk to us about your favorite Johnny Griffin memory?
So like it's been I met Johnny at the Virginia meetup in 2017, if I can recall.
Yeah.
So first we became friends. We share a birthday. We're born on May 14th,
Yeah.
the two of them. It's been a couple of years where I go every year in Arkansas to hang out with him and Bobby Hop. And so last time I was there, we went literally on the top of a mountain in a big lodge. Like there was just like the three of us plus Bobby's wife, and we had this huge lodge. And so it was raining, and like one of the things that I like with Johnny is that we challenge each other. Like I challenge him to build me a lamp so I can light paint in New York City more easily.
Yeah.
And when I came in Arkansas, he told me, "You see this lodge, 35, 40 feet large? I want you to make calligraphy that is 35, 40 feet large. I want you to cover that large."
Yeah.
And I looked at him, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do that." Then he said, "Yeah, you better do." So I did, and it was like very challenging. I was very stressed,
Yeah.
but I did it, and that's what I like with Johnny. Like every time I go there, he challenges me in a way that I'm not used to be challenged.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we can all get together soon. I think I have seen that image of what probably is maybe the world record longest calligraphy that I've seen. I think he mentioned as well. There's probably something out there that's maybe longer, but as far as
Oh, yeah.
calligraphy, how wide that was nothing more than remarkable. Um, yeah, no, I love Johnny. I hope to all of us get together soon. In the beginning of the podcast, we talked about how important it is to gift portraits. And you and I doing a portrait of him, 50-50, splitting either the lower half or the upper half or left and right, and us collaborating with our unique styles, yet similar styles, would be an amazing gift for him. And I am really excited for that one.
I, I could not agree more. Like one of the things that I like to do with one of my good friend Don is that usually we take a subject or like a person and he does the bottom and I do the top, or I use the he does the big lights and I do the little ones.
Yeah.
Like we combine art, and it's very interesting because you combine like different styles, different way to work, and it just gives like good stuff. Like then you have a picture like this is not mine, this is not yours, this is
It's ours.
it's ours. So it's like that's what's good.
Uh, you said it perfect, man. You said it
So
perfect.
next time we hang out, like we do that for sure.
I would love to. I would love to. And I'm going to be obviously doing a lot of calligraphy. You've inspired me. I don't have the images. They're still actually unedited. They're just in the camera. But even just we're getting ready for this podcast, just honestly downloading some of your older images has really, really inspired me, and I can't wait to share them with you and everyone else. I asked everyone this, if you could add one song to the podcast, something that might inspire you to light paint. It doesn't have to be about light painting, just anything you want to add. What would it be?
So it's like every time I pack my gears to go on a meetup or anything, I there's always one song which is more related, like it's a more a road trip song to me. But like every time I go on a meetup, it's kind of like a road trip. It's called it's from a band called the Hip Abduction, and
Okay.
the song name is Come Alive.
Yeah.
That's really that's one of my favorite. Every time I go on a trip, that's just bring me joy.
Well, I can't wait to add it. It's in a very eclectic mix. There's all kinds of different stuff in there. If you haven't subscribed to the Spotify playlist for light painters, it's called "Dude, Where's My Flashlight?" Definitely do that if you're looking for just randomness to light paint too. They're all good in their own way, and the best thing for me is that each individual song was recommended by somebody on the podcast. And so it obviously just makes me teleport almost and connect with them just like this. And this is what the podcast is for, more than social media, more than just what words can say, even describing your image, is getting to know the process, getting to look behind the curtain and to find out, what inspires you, what's your process, what keeps pushing you when you have to just practice and practice. And I mean, straight lines just in calligraphy takes me forever. I mean, I'm talking like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of attempts. And I think that's where most people kind of fall off the wagon, especially with calligraphy, is that it's just so technical and fine that people just kind of give up. And I hope to somehow install that, like you said, just give them the courage to keep going, to give that fire a little bit more, just to keep pushing yourself. Yeah, you said it best. I love it. Well, D, if you could go back to when you were first light painting, when you were first doing the calligraphy, what's one piece of advice, or what's some things to always remember when you're taking this sort of immense but incremental process of calligraphy on? What would you tell yourself?
Huh. I think I would tell myself keep practicing and
Mm.
push yourself, because sometimes there are some stuff that come in your life and you come back from work, you had a rough day, and you're on a Friday night, and you're just like, you were supposed to go light painting, and you're like, yeah, and I'm just gonna chill and stay in front of the TV. And like sometimes I would like to go back in time and push myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way sometimes, so yeah, like push yourself a little bit,
Got
a little
it.
bit more.
Yes. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. You know, it reminds me of sometimes it's the hardest image is the first one. It's just to get set up and just to push that. But once you get that first one in, it almost seems like everything energizes or awakens inside of you. And then I don't even know when to stop sometimes. You know, I'm literally staggering because I'm just mentally exhausted. And I'm just staggering out of my studio and I just, go crash. But amazing advice, man. You know, keep pushing yourself, keep practicing. And, I like anything, you watch 10,000 tutorials, but if you don't go do it yourself, if you don't do the body movement, if you don't learn from yourself, and you're only learning from other people and you never actually go and do it, you're never really going to progress. And so I couldn't agree with you more, man. Get out there and keep going.
But it's not only true for calligraphy, it's true for like anything in light painting and more generally in life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
keep practicing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. Well, buddy, I think that's going to wrap the podcast. We've had an amazing, amazing chat. Thank you so much for being on the show. You've been a huge inspiration to me and all the calligraphy artists out there. I'm going to keep pushing it, and I'm going to be thinking of you. I hope to see you soon. This will be our third meetup together. Thanks for joining me, brother.
And thank you for this podcast. Really, I followed this podcast season 1, and I'm really honored to be in this season 2. Really, I really enjoy what you're doing, and yeah, I'll keep watching it. Even though I don't like to see myself on camera, I'll watch myself.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. It's a project that is selfless in a lot of ways. I want to highlight and I want to get to know these artists. I want the community to actually have the chance to get to know these artists more than what a social media post can give us. And this is the one way to actually have a meetup, online, virtual, although the best ones are in person. But for now, with the way the world is, this is where we're at. And so I couldn't be happier with this episode. I couldn't be happier to have a chance for us to sit down. D, I hope to see you soon, man. Until then.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
We'll take care.
All right.
And thanks again, man. Peace.
Yeah, thanks for having me.